everybody. It's 2:00 and I will call the Committee of the Whole meeting to order. I'll start with the land acknowledgement. The City of Fort Saskatchewan is located on Treaty 6 territory in Métis Nation of Alberta, District 11. We recognize that we stand upon land that carries the footsteps of many Indigenous peoples, including the Nihilwak, Dene, Blackfoot, Saulteaux, Nikita, Sioux, and Métis. The city honors the first peoples of this land and is committed to fostering reconciliation through relationship building, knowledge gathering, and education. I see we don't have anyone else, so we won't go through the extra procedures. Can we have adoption of the agenda? I put myself off. Councillor Ketcher. Hang on. I don't know what I did wrong here. Back. There we go.
Okay, I'll move the adoption of the agenda as printed.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything? Additions, deletions? Okay, I call that to vote. Carried unanimously. Oh, and I should mention that Councillor Randawa is online with the meeting. Okay, do we have any delegations? I don't think so. Can I have approval of the minutes of the January 20th, 2026 Committee of the Whole meeting? Councillor Harris.
I would move approval of the minutes, but I ask for a clarification in the fifth line in the call to order land acknowledgement. Is the second word in Nakota Sioux spelled correctly? I don't believe S-I-O-U-S is correct. If it is, then I stand corrected. If not, that is an error that should be corrected. But I move adoption of the agenda, or adoption of the minutes.
Okay, I didn't look at that. Can we correct that if they are spelled wrong?
To the chair, yes, absolutely. We'll just take that away and double check.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. That's it. Anyone else? Any comments, changes? Okay. Call the vote. And that is carried unanimously. Okay, we'll move to new business, and we have a economic development priorities overview with Aaron Brush Duncan, sorry. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair and Council. I'm Erin Brush Duncan, Director of Economic Development. The purpose of today's item is to provide the Committee of the Whole with information on economic development strategies that support two key objectives: attracting commercial development and supporting downtown enhancements. I will be providing an overview of our current and planned economic development work to attract commercial development and to support the ongoing downtown enhancement efforts in Fort Saskatchewan, as well as some options on how the department can increase our efforts in these areas. To provide context for today's discussion, I'll briefly highlight some background information and some of our previous work in these two areas. Our most recent downtown enhancement work builds on several years of downtown engagement and strategic direction. In 2019, the My Fort, My City, My Say Vibrant Downtown Survey helped to inform the creation of the Downtown Action Plan in 2021. The Downtown Development Strategy followed in 2024, and in June 2026, administration will be wrapping up our focused downtown work with the final update on the Downtown Development Strategy. In addition to this downtown work, administration commissioned a retail market gap analysis in 2019 and a downtown specific market gap analysis in 2024. The city's strategic plan was amended by council in February of 2024, including support for evolving downtown efforts, as well as the addition of an initiative to prioritize potential and current industrial investment. On November 28th of 2025, Council directed administration to provide a report by the end of the first quarter of 2026 that shared economic development strategies for attracting commercial development and supporting downtown enhancements, including potential options, considerations, and costs. Today's report follows that direction. At a foundational level, economic development currently provides core commercial attraction services. Practically, that means relationship building, supporting business inquiries, tracking market trends, gathering opportunity data, and administering key incentive tools such as the Commercial Revitalization Grants Program. We serve as the city's primary resource for businesses looking to start or expand. When an inquiry comes in, we support due diligence by providing information on available sites, incentive and grant programs, market data, and regulatory processes, and we connect investors to the right city departments to ensure a coordinated support. To keep our work evidence-based, we monitor business license trends and commission market gap analyses. The findings from the most recent retail market and downtown market gap analyses informed both our commercial revitalization and downtown development incentive programs, as well as many of our current marketing materials. Looking ahead into 2026, we're planning a commercial vacancy and site inventory to establish baseline data and track trends across our major commercial centers. That inventory will help identify opportunity sites and strengthen our conversations with investors, businesses, and realtors. From there, economic development and corporate communications will develop updated commercial attraction one-pagers, similar to what we do for industrial attraction, as well as a dedicated landing page on the city's website. We will also be increasing visibility through some regional exhibitions and events. And finally, targeted downtown work continues. Both the Downtown Action Plan and the Downtown Development Strategy have played key roles in revitalizing the area and attracting investment. The action plan delivered quick wins for vibrancy, such as the murals, parklets, and new residential development incentives, marketing campaigns, and nearly $300,000 in grant funding. Building on this, the Downtown Development Strategy focused on drawing private investment, removing barriers, enhancing incentives, and encouraging infill opportunities. And although these projects are slated to wrap up in summer 2026, administration will continue to advance downtown development by managing those incentives for new housing, administering those commercial revitalization grants, and running the Discover Downtown marketing campaigns. These coordinated efforts, increasing the residential density and commercial attraction and maintaining those targeted incentives, are recognized as the best overall strategy to sustain and enhance our downtown vibrancy. If council wishes to improve business attraction efforts, the key shift would be moving from primarily responsive, inquiry-based attraction to a more proactive, ongoing outreach model. This means we wouldn't only be responding when a business contacts us, we would actively build and maintain relationships with brokers, site selectors, and targeted retailers, and consistently promote Fort Saskatchewan's market potential and investment-ready commercial centers. 3 options will be presented for your consideration, each reflecting a different level of service and investment. The first option focuses on building the foundation for commercial attraction and downtown investment without adding permanent staff. We would commission a commercial attraction strategy to identify the priority sectors and target businesses while outlining a coordinated marketing and outreach approach. This strategy would be informed by community needs, population trends, and consumer spending patterns, and could highlight downtown as a key investment area. The resulting plan would clarify our value proposition, define our target audiences, and ensure the development of consistent investor-ready materials. Temporary clerical support would provide additional capacity for the current economic development staff to oversee the strategy's development. This approach enables a more proactive, data-driven model while deferring permanent staffing decisions until the strategy is complete. The second option builds upon option 1 by adding a dedicated economic development officer. This position would manage and implement the strategy and lead proactive outreach and enhancement efforts. Responsibilities include targeted outreach and communications, hosting tours for retailers and developers, providing tailored information packages, participating in commercial attraction events, operating a formal business visitation and retention program, and promoting Fort Saskatchewan's commercial centers and downtown investment opportunities. This option establishes a sustained professional resource supporting that transition from the responsive engagement to actively competing for new commercial investment. Option 3 further expands upon option 2 by adding resources for a formal commercial attraction marketing campaign. The campaign would include targeted digital advertising, paid placements in business and real estate publications, participation in major commercial real estate and retail conferences, and a downtown-focused marketing component. This option would significantly raise Fort Saskatchewan's visibility among retailers, brokers, and site selectors who may not currently be aware of our market potential. In summary, each option offers a progressive step towards enhancing commercial attraction and downtown enhancement. Each of the presented options does come with associated resourcing costs. Option 1 has a one-time cost of $105,630 and focuses on building the foundation for our commercial attraction efforts without adding that permanent staff. The main cost here is the $75,000 to commission a commercial attraction strategy. And to support this work, temporary part-time clerical support would be required at a cost of about $30,600. This position would handle administrative tasks like supporting, the business licensing, directory updates, and some leasing coordination, which would help provide more capacity for our current staff. Option 2 has a one-time cost of $75,000 for that commercial attraction strategy, but also adds a dedicated economic development officer for commercial attraction at a cost of about $148,000. Option 3 provides for the commercial attraction strategy, economic development officer, and a dedicated marketing campaign for a one-time cost of $125,000 with an ongoing cost of about $183,000. Those additional costs from the initial marketing campaign development and asset development, as well as those ongoing costs of about $35,000 to continue that increased marketing. Administration does recommend waiting on this final option until the commercial attraction strategy is complete, unless council prefers to move ahead more quickly. A strategic planning workshop for council is scheduled for March 2026 to develop the 2027 to 2030 strategic plan. That workshop is an opportunity for council to identify strategic goals and outcomes related to economic development, including priorities around commercial attraction and downtown vitality. The results of these discussions will help inform administration's recommendations. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions? We'll start with Councillor Wesley.
Awesome. Thank you for the presentation. Mm-hmm. Of course, you said a couple of magical words to my brain is data-driven. Mm-hmm. So I'm just curious as to how option 1 strategy will be data-driven and how will that data be used?
Sure.
And what data will be used, by the way?
Okay. Through the chair to Councillor Wesley. So when we do these commercial attraction strategies, a component of that will be updating our market gap analysis. So we will be looking at what types of retail or commercial kind of sectors we're seeing a lot of leakage in, like we're seeing more purchasing being done outside the community versus what sort of I guess how much is being spent already within the city. So what are the opportunities? Where do we see that there is room for those kind of retailers here is something that would be looked at. They'd be looking at our demographics. So we already know we have a high cost of, or a high standard of living, a high income. A lot of that's due to some of the industrial employment in the area. And so we also know that we're a younger community. So when you start looking at those demographics, what sort of retail would make the most sense here? And so that's some of the data that we would be using. We would also be looking at our inventory. What do we already have here? What do communities of our size typically need. And so we'd be looking at all of that data. And then we'd be looking at things like how consumer spending trends have changed since post-pandemic with the kind of increase of online shopping and things like that. All of that would be considered and would create a strategy that we would then kind of move forward on.
Okay. Maybe just a couple other questions bouncing around here. Have we looked at maybe less expensive alternatives for driving people downtown? Let's say making it easier for a venue or somebody to hold an event in the downtown area. Any kind of idea towards maybe reducing permitting overhead or compliance or costs in that way that maybe might drive people to have more events downtown, but don't necessarily cost us money to do those changes?
Through the chair to Councillor Wesley, that's absolutely something we can look at. My understanding from kind of working in the event space is that the process for applying at least to do an event on city property, for instance, Legacy Park, is relatively streamlined, but always there's room for us to take that away and kind of look at any possible barriers to see.
Okay, that would be awesome. And just one last question. Just curious as to the directionality of flow. Do residents move downtown first? Do we drive residential development downtown and the businesses follow? Or do we incentivize businesses and the residents follow? It's sort of like which comes first, the urban hen or the egg?
Through Councillor Blizzard to Councillor Wesley. So we've recently completed a downtown retail gap analysis study, and it reinforces things that we've kind of learned through our own engagement and through some previous work, that to best support our businesses downtown, we need more residential. That's why in the past we've worked on developing those downtown development incentives, which is to attract residential density into the downtown. And then also we worked in the last year to refine our business support incentives. And that's when we have the storefront improvement as well as the commercial improvement, which is more for those interiors. So I think we're kind of trying to hit it with a two-pronged approach. One, trying to promote more residents living downtown, but also supporting the businesses that are already here, and that work would continue.
Do you think one prong is stronger than the other?
It's a difficult question, but I would say that when you can increase the amount of residents living in downtown, I think that really does support our businesses downtown.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Erin.
Thank you. Next, we will have Councillor Ketcher.
Okay, I'll try and be kind. So you talk about you're currently only responsive, there's no proactive. And yet with the number of staff that you have now compared to what you had a few years ago, is it really that difficult to be proactive, to pick up the telephone, to phone some businesses? Because if you're only responsive, if somebody doesn't know who we are, then they're not even going to give you a call. So do you set any, have you thought about setting any goals for your staff to say, let's make X number of phone calls a day and see, you know, if we get any intake from that?
Through you, Chair, to Councillor Ketcher. Currently, for our staff, we have 3 permanent full-time employees, myself, an economic development officer, as well as an economic development technician, and we have a full-time contract role focusing on downtown that goes through the summer of 2026. And right now, with the really significant increase in industrial investment and managing our incentives and some of the other kind of work on our plate, I would say there is a capacity challenge in us being able to be more responsive. So we have done some work. We've done some, I guess about 2 years ago, we took new photos and did some work on the downtown specifically, trying to promote that. So I wouldn't say that we are only responsive, but we have not been making a lot of those phone calls. It's something that when capacity allows, we would be pushing forward in that regard. It's just not something we've had capacity to do recently.
Okay. And I always hate hearing the word capacity because I don't know what everybody does all day long. So I guess the other question that I have, you talk about doing another market gap analysis, doing spending trends. I find it's really interesting because some person will just go on to Fort Sask Informed and say, what business would you like here in Fort Saskatchewan? And everybody comes on and puts all the businesses that aren't currently here. So I'm not sure what value that actually provides for the money that we spend on that. And when we talk about the spending trends, absolutely, people are spending more using Amazon, UPS, and the home deliveries that I see even in our area. So when I look at Edmonton, when they're losing their big box stores, I think it's going to even be a struggle. So I'm not sure, like I agree we need to be more proactive in trying to let people know that we exist here in Fort Saskatchewan, but I'm not sure that adding another staff will do that. So I'm personally questioning what everybody is doing within your apartment, and I'll leave it with that.
Thank you. Next we have Councillor Nguyen.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation, Aaron. I have two questions, and the first is kind of the risk of not doing this. Like, is there a very real risk that, you know, commercial development and attraction, vibrancy, let's just say, to the downtown core through business and residency becomes stagnant if we don't interfere?
Through the chair to Councillor Nguyen, I think that the Fort is at a really interesting position right now. We're seeing a lot of growth, not just in industry, but also in residential. And so with that will come some new commercial opportunities in some of these neighborhoods. And I think that we are already starting to see more people considering us. We're now over 30,000. People. I think it is well known that the Fort is doing well. There's a lot of excitement and growth here. I think that economic development will continue to do everything we can to support those inquiries and things. If we wanted to really take advantage of the interest and the growth happening in the city, it could be a great time to look at bringing in or putting more of a focus on that commercial attraction. So it's hard to say what the risk is, but I would say there's a lot of positive growth happening. And if we wanted to push forward and try and take as big of advantage of that wave as possible, this is something we could look at.
No, I agree with you. I think Fort Saskatchewan's on the map in a big way. So maybe market awareness is not something that we necessarily need to focus on, especially with, you know, Dow's path to zero. And we've seen interest from developers and from developers even way beyond our borders here, saying that Fort Saskatchewan would be a great place to invest. So that is a great segue. Your answer into my other question, which is, you have two options that show ongoing funding. We have a development market in Fort Saskatchewan that is very attractive. That there is good awareness, as has been shown in the last year or two. So how, I guess, maybe related to goals, when is enough for bureaucratic investment? Like, what are our matrices of saying we've absolutely done all we can to facilitate developers to see Fort Saskatchewan as a particularly attractive market to invest in? So if we're doing ongoing things and we're saying we should keep doing that, when is kind of the we're done. We did it. We've been successful. I suppose it's very simply, right? Because it's quite a bit of money for ongoing if, you know, in an area, targeted area that is only so big geographically.
Through you, Chair, to Councillor Nguyen, I would say that I guess it's kind of a complex question. So when we look at, for instance, downtown, we've put the city council has dedicated some resources into making some improvements into downtown. And I think we are starting to realize some of those successes. For instance, those downtown development incentives that were created, we've got almost 100 new units of residential that, are associated with that. We're seeing a more beautiful downtown. So we're seeing some of that progress. We're seeing downtown businesses improving their spaces with the help of the commercial revitalization grant. So I think that's kind of one metric that we're seeing, like, hey, this is working. I think the city's going to continue to grow. And I think with that, opportunities are going to continue to grow as well, that increased resources would be able to support with. So yes, you think we've only got, a defined boundary, but we're also adding more neighborhoods with more commercial potential. So I think those opportunities will keep growing, and that ongoing support would help with those growing opportunities.
That's a great answer. Yeah, I'll leave it at that for now. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to insert myself here for a sec because I have a couple of questions. So one of the things when I was reading this, right away I thought it says commercial attraction strategy, and this is under your economic development priorities overview. I kind of feel like, shouldn't that be already a priority? It sounds like you're doing it as a new priority possible to come, but I'm not. I know what economic development is, but I haven't worked in that area. So wouldn't that be, to me, that sounds like one of the top priorities of it to begin with?
To you, Chair. So when we look at the programs we manage in economic development, business attraction is, a program, and with that is kind of industrial and commercial. And so, yes, attracting new businesses, new investments to the fort is absolutely a priority for the economic development department. It's just in the last few years, because of the huge amount of industrial investment we're getting, it's just kind of causing having that much success there is a great problem to have, right? Because it is causing some capacity challenges. So it's not that it's not a priority, it's just where we're kind of prioritizing resources, if that makes sense, for business attraction. So we've been doing a lot for industry and for some of the smaller industrial partners that support the large. That's kind of been an area where we've been putting a lot of time. And so it's not that commercial attraction isn't a priority, it's just not where we've been able to put our resources right now.
And I know I have taken some in the past little courses on starting businesses. And one of the things they have, and I don't know if it's a definitive, but there's a 5 to 10% amount that you should be spending on advertising economic development, in a sense, for a business. Is there such a number for economic development for cities? Like, has that been looked into, or are we way underspending what compared to others our size? Are we doing what we should?
To you, Chair, I don't know that there's a percentage that a municipality should necessarily be spending to promote our areas. When you look at some of the kind of surrounding municipalities, especially in the Edmonton region, you will see some of the larger centers like Strathcona and St. Albert, right, who do a lot of the commercial attraction. And we are a little bit smaller. So I don't know that there's an exact percentage that we should be spending. We do have one of the smaller departments, I would say, in the region.
Like compared to Leduc, I would compare more to Leduc, Spruce Grove, Beaumont.
Yes, so kind of within the area, we do have probably some of the fewest FTE per population. We're very similar to City of Leduc.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you very much. And we will go with Councillor Randhawa, who is online. Welcome.
Hey everyone. Thanks for bearing with me while I'm online. I survived the wedding, which was about a week long, but I did not survive this plague that I've caught for the last 2 days and had a fever. So I hope you can hear me okay. Thanks for the report, Aaron, and appreciate some of the questions from my colleagues. I put this motion forward during budget, which I think all of council supported, because I think we all share, a desire to bring in more commercial and continue to support our downtown, because that's what I heard a lot during the election. So I have a couple questions. One being, when I went through your report, I see there's different options presented, but as you are the economic development expert, do you or does administration have a preference for which one they believe is best?
Through you, Chair, to Councillor Randawa, I think the next steps that administration was proposing is that this be discussed in kind of more detail, possibly during that strategic planning session that's coming up, I believe, next month. I do think it is smart for us to take a look at doing a study to best understand where the most recent opportunities are. So the most recent full city downtown retail gap analysis and kind of commercial direction was from 2019. And we all know the world has changed pretty significantly since then. So I would say that's a really great place to start. And then, some of the resources to support that would be, do we look at doing the study first and kind of figuring out what would be necessary to implement all of those steps, or do we start with the study and a resource to really hit the ground running? And I think that would be at the direction of council.
To the chair.
Councillor Randawa, can you get closer to the mic at all, where it's really tough to hear you?
My mic's I'm just wearing the same headphones I did last time. Do you guys not hear me well?
It's just quiet. We'll try our best, I guess.
Through the chair. If I could add on to Ms. Brush Duncan's comments. In terms of our preference, I don't know if we really have one. This is really a service level conversation. So the reality for Fort Saskatchewan is probably for the next 3 to 5 years, we're going to be very focused on industrial development, which is a great situation to be in. If council would like us to have capacity to pursue commercial attraction in more of a progressive or active fashion, we are happy to implement that direction, but really this is ultimately a service level discussion for council.
Okay, and it looks like we will discuss that coming up. Okay, is there something else, Councillor Randawa? Okay.
No, I'm okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're still on round one with Councillor Harris.
Question of administration. When is our next municipal census going to be undertaken?
There's a federal census that takes place in 2026. So with council approval, it might be in 2027.
So we're not doing it in 26?
No, we are not.
Okay, I think that's an important thing to do sooner rather than later, because I think understanding where our growth has come from and elements of what our growth is ultimately then could give us some insights in itself into this particular question. I'm not sure if I necessarily see the value of doing this sort of gap analysis at this point in time. But nonetheless, if we're going to have a strategic discussion about this next month, then I think that's an appropriate time for council as a whole to weigh in on this. And I really think that doing the census sooner rather than later, I think is important, because then we get a better segmentation of what our population is and potentially the things that they feel are important in terms of commercial development going forward.
Done? Done. Okay, Mayor Macon.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your efforts in this, Erin. It was what I expected it to be, and I appreciated the numbers and understanding each of the options. As our community grows, I feel like we hear more and more from people just looking for a more diverse business community, especially as our population continues to soar. And, just given your presentation today, I really look forward to discussing with council at our strategic session and ongoing through council meetings, just on what our role is going to be in that and what we see us doing for our community in that regard. And I think that as you stated, the best place to start those discussions is through the strategic planning session and to go from there. So look forward to further discussion and debate about that. Thank you.
Thank you. And on round two now, Councillor Ketcher.
Okay. So, I guess the question that I have, you know, we talk about, and you're absolutely right. I think the conversation, the more holistic conversation, comes at the March strategic planning meeting. But I guess one of the questions that I really want to put out there is we talk about how much we've invested in storefront and commercial improvement. But I guess the question that I have is, as we provide those fundings for those, what we're seeing in some instances is these business owners then increase their rents, and then people can't afford to have their businesses in them. And then, of course, then they leave and become home-based. So I guess I'm just throwing that out there, that if we're going to continue something like that, then there maybe has to be some, you know, some conversations or something put into the agreement, because if we're losing businesses because we've just given you $10,000 and now the people can't afford to live or have their business there, we've just gone backwards. Or they bring somebody else in and increase the rent, and we've provided them the funding. I guess the other question that I have is, should our goal not be about bringing more people into the community, like visitors to our community? And we don't seem to touch on that at all. Councillor Wesley and I were doing the tourism grant one, and I was really impressed with learning how many people are brought into our community for tourism. And yet, I think there's very little focus put on that. So I'm wondering if that's something that we should be focused on, because you want to get people into the businesses. And even though it's nice that the business has, you know, looks pretty and everything, I'm just wondering if that's a focus that we should be looking at.
Through you, Chair, to Councillor Katcher. I think you're right. Having as many amazing events as the city puts on in our downtown is definitely a positive for the downtown businesses. And we do work to kind of notify our businesses when those events are happening, and you know, encouraging them to stay open, and also share some of that information with the businesses, kind of as a pro for being downtown, is that we have such incredible events.
You bet. Oh, you took it off. Yeah.
Sorry, and I guess what I'm saying is it's not primarily just about downtown. I mean, for a while, the businesses outside of downtown said, well, why are we only funding downtown? And then, of course, we came up with a plan to say, well, they're the ones who are struggling the most. But given all of our businesses pay into the business licenses, I would think that we would want to come up with a program that, and maybe it is through tourism, people who are at the Dow and they're using, you know, going into the restaurants and stuff like that, and then using the hotels and going shopping, but then, you know, pushing them into the greater part of our community. I think that's important. So when we're talking about this, I'm not talking primarily downtown. We have a full business community, and I think when we talk about tourism in general, and it's not just downtown events, it's about all events. So that's my comments.
Thank you. And Councillor Wesley.
Awesome, thanks. I'm just curious, when we look at the three options, how much development would we have to attract in order to justify those expenditures ranging from 105,000 to 183,000?
Through you, Chair, to Councillor Wesley. I have not done the financial calculations on what, you know, revenue would, you know, tax revenue or things like that for bringing in new businesses. But I think it is, you're looking at it a little bit more holistically. Like, is it building the type of community, or providing the opportunities for businesses to kind of serve that community is I guess the win there. So I don't know what the financial numbers would be on how many businesses to kind of recapture that investment.
Okay. Well, we got Jeremy in the audience today. I'm sure he's clicking through those numbers through his head as we speak. I'm just curious as to the success of our past efforts. So we had the Downtown Action Plan of 2021. So you should probably have a good idea of whether that was successful or not. You maybe give me some A little bit of guidance on that.
Through you, Chair, to Councillor Wesley. Yes, I think the some of the kind of wins from the Downtown Action Plan would be that we've had, I think it's 5 murals, multiple parklets, new banners, a lot of beautification in the downtown, as well as those downtown development incentives, which we were excited to see being taken advantage of for some new residential downtown. Then as we kind of transitioned to the downtown development strategy, it was kind of that from kind of those quick noticeable wins to really taking a look at like in depth, what kind of investments do we want in downtown and how do we help get those investments? So we did a bit of more of a deep dive on, what are the barriers or perceived barriers to investment in the downtown? And we kind of took a look at those. We did kind of a pro forma to see, well, what type of residential actually makes the most sense in downtown, things like that. So I would say those are some wins. When you kind of go through our downtown, I think you do notice those investments. And I think also we've built some good relationships. And now, realtors are calling us and being like, well, what do you think about this? Or I have someone interested in here. So I think we've actually really started to develop really important, good relationships there. So I do think we've had some successes there.
Okay, I'm good. Thank you very much, Erin.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, not seeing any more questions. Thank you very much. And next we will have Jeremy Eman up, who will talk to us about our allocation of operating budget surplus policy and management and financial reporting policy. Welcome, Jeremy.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Jeremy Eman, Chief Financial Officer with the City, and I'm here to present and invite feedback from committee members on proposed policy updates for 2 financial policies, the allocation of operating budget surplus policy and the management and financial reporting policy. In July 2017, Council approved the allocation of operating budget surplus policy, FIN 22-C. The purpose of this financial policy is to provide principles and guidelines for the allocation of operating budget surpluses. In September that same year, Council approved the Management and Financial Reporting Policy, FIN 25-C. This financial policy provides principles and guidelines for internal reporting of the City's financial results and progress on key initiatives. In March 2019, amendments to the policy were approved by Council, which included changing the timing of internal reporting from a quarterly to a triennial basis. City policies are regularly reviewed by administration, and when applicable, proposed policy updates are brought forward for Council's review and consideration. The proposed policy updates include wording changes to both policies to help clarify meaning, enhance readability, remove redundant information, and provide updated definitions. Also within the allocation of operating budget surplus policy, further guidance was added for administration to report year-end operating budget surpluses and recommendations for their allocation to Council at the time the annual audited financial statements are reviewed and approved by Council. As for financial implications, since the proposed policy updates do not materially change the existing policies, which align with the City's current practices, no financial implications and/or internal or external impacts are anticipated from implementing the proposed policy updates. Feedback received from committee members will be used to make further revisions to the policies as applicable. The revised policies, along with any further revisions, will be brought back for Council's consideration and approval at a future regular Council meeting. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to take questions at this time.
Thank you very much. And does anyone have any questions? All right, you might get off very easy here.
Right.
I don't see one single question, so here we go. He didn't want to let you get off that easy.
I really like Jeremy, so
Okay.
I feel obligated to ask him a question.
Councillor Wesley.
I probably get this probably be kind of a weird question. So on FIN 025C in policy 4.2, I guess, I'm sorry. Am I on? Oh, okay. This is on, I think it's appendix, oh my gosh, can't keep track of them right now.
B.
D, it's management and reporting. And on 4.2, it notes that we would have 2 interim reports, whereas before we'd be provided with triannual interim reports and an annual report. This suggests to me that we're reducing by 1 the amount of reports that we get. Am I reading that right? Because I'm reading the marked up version, which is a little bit tricky for an old guy like me to read.
Through the chair to Councillor Wesley. So no, the quick answer to that is no, we're not changing the number of reports. I know the wording under the old policy was a little bit confusing. We provide 2 interim reports, a T1, which is to the end of April, and a T2 to the end of August, and then we do an annual report in December. And I think the wording was like 3 reports, and so it sounded like it was 3 interim, but it's 2 interim and 1 annual to make 3 in total.
Gotcha. Thanks.
All right. Not seeing anyone else. Thank you very much, Jeremy. Okay, our next item of business. Does any council member have an inquiry for the staff? Seeing none, we will now go to closed session. No, not yet. Nothing in closed session. Okay. We will then adjourn this meeting at 2:46 p.m. I run a tight ship. Thank you.